Starting lineup, Tryndamere, Wukong, Lux, Jinx, Twisted Fate, up against Urgot, Wukong, Annie, Fortune, Seraphine. Rating of the picks for a casual game, Tryndamere as a top, 6, Wukong in the jungle, 10, Lux as a mid, 9, Jinx as a shooter, 5, Fate in support, 4, Urgot as a top, 8, Wukong in the jungle, 10, Fortune as a shooter, 7, Seraphine in support, 8. Here in this game we're going to enjoy this head-to-head of the champ that I see as my primary enemy in lower ranked, which was definitely the biggest consideration when I first picked up Annie, and we're going to enjoy that translucent utility and trickery up against that raw destructive power of setting everything on fire, which apparently nobody likes because they like the Yiddies on this one. Also in this game, this Fate and this Jinx player, and the more closely we start looking at this personalized glyphs, very specific icon here and symbol, you bought a separate title, you have these unusual combinations of summoner spells, you're playing Fate in support, this person is going to end up using an AD build and a mixed build for Fate. This is a stereotypical example of overthinking everything, getting deeply involved into intricate details that really fit way more with games like Baldur's Gate and Pillars of Eternity than competitive online games like League of Legends, and we're going to experience this entire matchup long, this nervous struggle of first putting yourself at a massive disadvantage from a kit standpoint, and then trying to worm and squirm your way out of it by micromanaging everything and looking at every slight minuscule little detail to try to somehow compensate and get even. You have here an extremely useful champion who was inherently put together to succeed at everything, and you have here a combination of champions who have nearly no real utility and supportive power in their kit. Also in this game, this top laner with a very unusual skin, as you will soon see. Moving on. Coming in hot with that teleport, this Wukong jungler player, just a dream of a guy, 10 out of 10 personality, and that perfect gank with that firepower. End up fighting the other Wukong, and we are a German guy who clearly got tilted in the last game, and we're going to have a ping crisis already. This kind of mentality is inherently going to disrupt your team's ability to work together. Team Blue is going to sour because of their Wukong player. These two Wukong players, completely opposite personalities. The red Wukong as useful as can be, the blue Wukong a toxic piece of S, and I am not a flash-in and hypermobility guy. I believe that very frequently the things you can do with run speed and flashing around are limited and they only allow you so much, but on both Annie and on Samira, so vital because they benefit so much from that in and out game. Once you close that distance, enemies evaporate. Have that natural toughness just like Samira, designed to get up close and personal. We're going to have the natural fallout of this German Wukong player on the blue team crying and complaining in chat and in ping. You want to know why I mute everything? Here we go. A corporal sacrifice is going to be made because this German boy is crying his eyes out, and this Jinx player is going to sacrifice themselves out of social correctness and social scrutiny. All the while, of course, this German boy Wukong player is nowhere to be seen. Now, I've been in this situation many times where I got clapped right in front of a dragon. I have done many matchups with Wukong on this channel. You will find me every time busting my bass to get back there as soon as possible. When I get killed in front of the Drake, I'm obviously going to try to get back there to try to figure it out. Because that smite is invaluable when it comes to stealing jungle objectives. And without that smite, these two players in Fate and Jinx have no chance whatsoever. So they're just being sacrificed for nothing here. Part of this play, of course, is Jinx's iconic, wildly limited kit, and just a complete lack of ability to get away in a manner that Fortune could partially do, Ezreal could do, Caitlyn could do because of her range, Twitch could do because of his invisibility. But Jinx has absolutely nothing, as I've said, all the way since the beginning of this channel. This German boy Wukong player, an affront to all Wukong players and Wukong fans such as myself, and absolutely the kind of thing that breaks up a team and loses you games innately. This is typically what you get if we're going to give this German boy the benefit of the doubt and say that it is not a part of his inherent personality. We have to say that this is most likely from getting tilted in previous games. And now you get your revenge by screwing over this bottom lane. This is why you should never listen to people like this in game who are random strangers unless they've proven themselves. Most of the time, pinging does more bad than good. I try to just ping to be cautious nowadays. I've noticed that it helps sometimes with the jungle objectives and with the ganks. But you do it once and you leave it alone. You don't ping 24 things and you don't start begging for help. This Sun Wukong really a team player guy, going to make the most of it with Urgot, an unconventional gank, but this Tryndamere very limited in terms of life pool. Probably because he's an ADC. That may have something to do with it that he's an ADC. Urgot is a little bit like Yone because he can make you feel immortal at times and give you a couple of inflated IDs. Going to set that teddy bear on you because that's just me. This Wukong player, just a dream of a guy, an insane playmaking ability. Consider the fact that this guy has nearly no experience with Wukong despite his username. You're taking so much health damage here with Urgot, you have to wonder what got you into such a situation that you have to backpedal that much. That you have this Tryndamere just hitting you for 15-18 seconds straight without interruption. It's a bit bizarre with this much experience on Urgot to behave like you're surprised that he cannot just dash out or anything. Urgot, the embodiment of a duelist, 1v1 outplay potential completely insane, scales very well with tank stats and health items, which we of course never see because, you know, people. The problem with Urgot is really more in terms of there's 5 people attacking you at the same time in a team fight, what are you going to do now? Because as I've said previously in Wukong, I believe it was episode 49, these little bump you interactions and running into you interactions to stun you and crowd control you with Urgot really fall off once you get out of that 1v1 area. Tryndamere, with his damage, makes him a potent split pusher and teamfight presence. Of course, you are in no way split pushing here, so that is misusing Tryndamere. He can generate fury through basic attacks and crits. The fury fuels the ultimate, and the more fury that he has, the stronger that he becomes, making him a serious threat in prolonged fights. Tryndamere can heal himself up with Bloodlust. For a percentage of his fury, this scales up with his fury level. Gets a massive self-sustain, you don't have to go back to the fountain every 2 seconds. And what we see here with this inefficient Urgot retreat, who is clearly unaware of this. Then ultimately with that undying rage, his ultimate, you become immune to death for a few seconds. And based on his rage level, we can already tell that this Urgot behavior makes no sense whatsoever and that you were clearly in no way aware of the core mechanics of Tryndamere. You're waiting for him to build up full rage here, and then you decide to randomly come back at him, which is of course ridiculous because he can just make himself immortal. On a minor level, Urgot, a little bit like Warwick, when you're playing weaker players, you can tell this person, this XXX Fab XXX, is not really used to outthinking his enemies. That's because you don't have to do that when you play Urgot because he's a wildly powerful duelist and laner. Which also means you're never using your brain, which also means that eventually that gets the better of you. And there's actually a bizarre but correct comparison to be made here between Tryndamere and Annie in terms of being able to dive past the turret line and the enemy borders, just able to eat that turret fire for a while, Annie with her summon and Tryndamere with his rage. You have that extra reach, and it's almost like you're able to break the rules for a little while. So crucial to both of these plays. You have this quasi-ranked behavior here at the beginning of this clip, as good a hallmark as any that you have a really solid team. When people in casual games start behaving like it's ranked. You have that visually appealing long-range buckshot from Urgot, this Wukong player helping out everyone and anyone. So what the heck? At this Lux player ganking down low and immediately going to get payback on that because this Wukong player is literally everywhere. This Jinx player and Fate player, 100% inspiration, 200% transpiration, 0% brain power. League is a competitive game and it's not the place to live out your personal fantasies. And it's really going to be very painful for you. Maybe you like a good screwing. There are some old men who like that. There are old men who are addicted to pain. It exists. Maybe you're one of them. As I've already said, make an Asterion character, make a Gale character dive into Baldur's Gate, go and get down with it, and try to play around with your fantasies, and when you're done, then come back here. Let's talk about this compared to me. Do you really think that I want to be a 6-year-old child with red hair and a teddy bear? I waited a very long time to make that jump to mid laner. It's the star position. I resonated with almost none of the mid laners. Naturally, like everyone else, think that Katarina and that Akali are very visually attractive and appealing. But that is just not the type of play and not the type of magic that I want to bring to every one of my games competitively, so I went with the small child. Because the small child plays like a warlock from World of Warcraft. And that is rock solid in every situation. Took me a really long time to figure it out. Mages so crucial in this game. Almost all of the mages weird to me. if I'm being real, went with Annie because the mechanics make sense to me. You have to go with the mechanics, you can't effing do it based on looks. You think you're really cool, you're an old mysterious man, kind of like Clint Eastwood, and you're sitting there with your tipped hat in your cowboy boots and your cowboy bar, and now you're Twisted Fate and it's all really cool. And we're down with the hood and whatnot, but this is not competitive. This is not the way you play and you go about a competitive game. They have a very strong tomboy, third wave feminism enforced idea of what strength is from a cultural standpoint, and if you cannot in any way find a space to reconcile yourself with the core League fantasies, then you will have to find another video game or another form of competition. This is very similar to people who play Yone and want to make him super tanky. This is very similar to people who play RE purely for looks and are not good mechanically. This is very similar to people who give up game after game after game on Akali because they really want to get in there, but they just do not in any way have the player skill. Very simple breakdown. Competitive games versus fantasy first games. This is a competitive game. Learn it or pay the price. I'm gonna come down here, pick up that turret bounty, cause we roll like that. You ultimately have some of that mage utility coming in from the blue team and getting a stun. But there's a lot of us and we got Wukong with us. Did I mention we have Wukong with us? You get that burst again. That summoning of Tibbers is so powerful. Down low, we're at the Drake now. Lux really maxing out that ultimate, lasering everyone. You have Urgot constantly whittling down. But as I've said, Urgot #1 quality is really 1v1, not so much team fights. You have this female fortune player and just so difficult for an amateur to know when to time it. Fortune, one of the most powerful team fight tools there are, but just so difficult to get that timing down. We have this old man with a attempt to roleplay here, going to follow me around, but we have Wukong with us. Did I mention we have Wukong with us? So you're going to get set up and pay the price for following me around. I'm only pretending to run away. That burst damage is way more than what you can muster. I get my typical interaction with Tryndamere, which that undying rage seems to come after me every time I'm in a game with Tryndamere. We have this long drawn out sequence of this German boy wildly overestimating his tankiness. You think you can jump in like this, but you built him basically like an assassin. A very healthy assassin, but still an assassin. You need to build him like a tank if you want to use him like this. I know about Wukong, I can tell you that much. We have this Twisted Fate who is just a jack of all trades at this point and just really doesn't know what he is, because he's so many things at the same time. Attack damage, AP damage, stealthiness, some absorb, some shield. Just all over the place with this guy. Tibber is a powerful tool for that turret, taking that turret out. And so much of that Lux virtue, just when you go up against her, you see it for the first time, because I've never really been mid-laning and I never really had her as a main enemy and as a main matchup. Lux, the most popular character in the video game because of the mix between extreme usefulness and such good visual looks, such a movie star of a girl, and such great power. But so much of Lux ends up being the very color of the spell that she uses when you actually micro-analyze it and break it down. I just can't tell what she's doing with that translucent element because it's so translucent. And that natural tankiness of Wukong just going to allow him, with that assassin kit, to pick off Lux at the end of this play. It takes so long for him to collapse, even when you build him like an assassin, just as long as you don't get as wild as this German boy. Let's break it up into smaller bits and pieces. Let's look at these individuals. We got this Urgot player with a skin that I will not forget for a very long time. Sometimes it really perplexes me what they're able to do visually. I think personally that being so hyper focused on Urgot and achieving such great mastery with him allowed you to focus on other things like team play, since you no longer have to worry about your personal spells and you no longer have to be worried about trying to understand your character. Now you have time to focus on other things. We have this tremendous, brilliant Wukong player, Sun Wukong. Maybe the first person that I've ever wanted to send a friend invite to. With that iconic Flash and Ghost Summoner spell combo. So typical of old people. This was the best player on the team. Unbelievable guy. It goes to show you what you can achieve with a positive mindset. We have myself, 7 kills, 0 deaths, 5 assists, really getting in there. I'm learning how to use that flame shield so well, and just always have that extra line of defense with Tibber so I don't have to give up too much. Just embracing that core playstyle and focusing in on achieving a kind of dynamic that I can live with in the mid, rather than something that per se looks romantic, like playing Katarina or playing Sylas. Which is amazing if you can pull it off, but it just takes so much and it's so complicated, and so frequently it breaks up and ruins teams because it's not a responsible pick unless you're a gamer god. We have this very much rookie Fortune player. Really great input, you're laid back, you don't seem at all like a gamer to me. For some reason, Microsoft and League of Legends devs managed to attract so many casual women all over the place. This was a rare example of this actually working out beautifully. You played your part and it was delicious. We have this Seraphine player just being able to carry so much more than what a support has to. Because you're Seraphine, and as I've said for such a lengthy time, she looks awkward to me in many ways. The semi-support kit deters me from using her. I could have really ran her in many ways in the mid lane as well if I wanted to. She's such an odd fantasy, almost more like a nouveau Japanese kind of vibe than really a Western style mage. Seraphine would definitely be viable in mid. While she's primarily seen in support due to her utility, her abilities can scale very well in a solo lane, especially with the right build. In the mid lane, she can poke, provide CC, and even offer teamfight presence with her charm from Encore. Her Q high note gives a reliable poke, and surround sound can be used to shield yourself or root enemies when they try to dive or escape. Beat drop can zone and slow down opponents, while her ultimate can turn the tide of fights in mid lane skirmishes. I don't know when it's all said and done that I know of a better all-around pick than Seraphine. I think she's pretty much an 8 in every single position that you could play her in. Then there's Tryndamere in top, robbing your team of a tank. Tryndamere is primarily a split laner. Split laner, in case you struggle with the vocabulary, means the bottom lane. That means you're completely out of place here. Imagine that I would run Jinx in the top lane. Goes to show you this Tryndamere really has a ton to offer, because he can somehow function when you play him this much out of position. Tryndamere seems to be a champion with unusually good raw power. I will say, however, this all-out, almost suicidal playstyle makes you very emotional. What very many champions in League of Legends have, and what is so beautiful about the game, is that, for example, Jinx has a very chaotic personality in the lore, but if you yourself don't enjoy some chaos, you're really going to be a very bad Jinx player. For example, Talon is a character in the lore who is really loved by no one and is hated by everyone, and always finds himself alone, kind of playing on a separate team almost. And if you don't enjoy that kind of vibe in the actual video game yourself, if you don't want to be an outsider, then don't pick Talon because he's really built around being an outsider. This is a very cool thing that they've done in the sense that your personality kind of really has to fit with the champion because the champion really embodies some of the real lore behind it. Even if you say, well, I don't give a damn about the backstory or the background or the lore like most people, it's still really directly going to impact and affect you. Ways that you can see this is so many people try to play careful and want to backpedal with Tryndamere. We especially saw it in Kha'Zix's episode 1, where we had this Tryndamere bottom lane split pusher player who continuously wanted to retreat. Tryndamere is Tryndamere, and you really see that his rage completely falls apart as a mechanic if you are yourself not bloodthirsty, enraged going after people. If you want to be tactical and all careful about everything, then this character is really going to fall apart from you, and we always see this strange dynamic of this enraged Tryndamere running away, and it just doesn't work because you need to keep attacking like a savage dog in order to keep that rage up and to keep that mechanic up. Live by the sword, die by the sword, and you're not fitting the personality type. We have this German Wukong player who seems to be neither old nor young based on all the cultural hallmarks that I'm seeing here. A piece of S, the complete opposite of our Wukong player and much of the reason why Team Blue ended up taking a loss. We have this other German boy playing Lux, apparently fantasizing about her, perhaps acknowledging one of the last remaining white people in Germany. I was the underdog in this matchup by a wide margin. You went 6-9 and I went 7-0, and I really enjoy that. I enjoy picking up a champ that nobody believes in and clearly demonstrating that I have better 1v1 potential than you do. We have this Jinx player actually surprisingly good. Really great skill. You went 4-5 on a loser team with a terrible champion. Please go play something else. Go play Mundo, go play Yasuo, go play Seraphine, but pick up something please that is way more useful than this trash champion. You're completely wasting yourself on this for no reason whatsoever. Then we have this Fate player whom I've already described at considerable length. Go pick up Baldur's Gate and come back when you're ready to compete. And until the time that you're into fantasy over anything, just go play offline fantasy stuff. This is a public competitive interaction platform. This is not where you live out your personal dark fantasy about being a mysterious card dealer and looking like Clint Eastwood and all that. Overall, if you're going to ride along and sit it out or have it on a side monitor, this is a great one to watch. Very much going on in this game, wild team fights. This is what really pulls you into League of Legends when you're first getting started. Wild 5-on-5s and so much stuff happening all at the same time, completely absorbed in the game. No time for boredom here, and no time for nonsense. Taking a look at the scoreboard here, yeah, I'd say go a little more offensive. If you plan on taking a bunch of hits, go a little more offensive. It's worth pointing out this item here should only be added all the way at the end of the game. This is in fact crucial because this item is unusually expensive. It is because of the fact that this item is unusually expensive that it is crucial to manage it properly. Every item is approximately balanced in League of Legends, meaning that there are no real freebies. Exceptions are items like Trinity Force, where you're going to have to pay more than it is actually worth. There's also the other example of Umbral Glaive, where you can get it on the cheap, and it's only like 2,400 gold. Most items are not like that, and it is an all-in package. You get what you pay for when they give you extra stuff on there, like Magical Opus, increase your total ability power by 30%. They're not giving you that for funsies. They're giving you that because you actually need to use it to get your money's worth out of that item. Now, what do we remember from the math classes that we took when we were 10 years old, 11 years old, 12 years old? When you're increasing a number by 30%, everything hinges on what that number is. You're going to get completely different outcomes based on what that number is, meaning you can only really get your money's worth out of that extra 30% if you actually apply it to a full stack of items with ability power on there. So if you don't already have a full stack of items with ability power on there, don't get this effing thing. Because it's calibrated based on your total. There is something by itself more to building mages like Twisted Fate with a bunch of attack damage items. We've already seen this with Smolder. However, like most experiments, this is something you should only do while you're already ahead. There is definitely some battle mage potential generally possible through this very flexible shop system and itemization system that we have in League of Legends, where everybody can learn to do a little bit of everything. But when you're struggling with basic controls and with mechanics, it is best to take care of that first. Essentially, this is a thing that would be a cool experiment if you were a God tier player, and I don't really want to fling dirt on the idea of battle mages and the idea of flexible builds, because I do believe that most people are too stuck up and too rusted into their fixations. But this kind of idea should be brought by somebody who is full of skill and mechanical ability, and even then so, you're probably very rarely going to outdo general mage power. We see in general, you have a little bit of this, you have a little bit of that, then you added that on top, overthinking everything here. But you should take care of business first and then start experimenting. Yeah, all using the exact same build guide, empathetically going with the makings of Guardian Angel here. Most of my viewers will know what kind of success I've had on Wukong. I never used these items, you know I never did. It's because the general popular build guide makes no sense. Now, I really have a good mastery of Wukong and a solid idea on what to do, how to win with him. And this is definitely not part of the plan. Many of these online guides are put together so that you would click on them rather than actually because they are sensible. Like everybody else in the world, you're going way too aggressive here. Urgoth is a type of champion who is almost going to get cut up every single time he steps out there. He's a complete frontliner who has to take hits the entire time and soaks up bullets and projectiles. The idea that you only have one real damage mitigating item, like, what are you thinking? You're just going to take all of those hits to the face without any kind of armor. It's such a strange idea to have. Moving on.
30 seconds until minions spawn.
Try to keep up.
Minions have spawned.
I never play with matches.
slain. An ally has been slain.
This way. Don't be a scaredy cat. Try to keep up.
An ally has been slain.
I never play with matches.
You have slain an enemy.
Have you seen my bare timbers?
An enemy has been slain.
slain.
Never play with matches. Up, skip, jump.
Banish the shadow.
Ashes, ashes, they all fall down.
An enemy has been slain. An enemy has been slain.
There yet? Come out wherever you want. Don't make me hurt you. Have you seen my dead peppers?
Banish the shadow.
An enemy has been slain. Your team has destroyed a turret. Unstoppable.
Try to keep up.
Your team has destroyed a turret.
Don't be a scaredy cat.
Your team has destroyed a turret. An enemy has been slain. An ally has been slain. Double kill. Shut down.
I never play with matches.
destroyed. Your turret has been destroyed.
Try to keep up.
Shut down. An enemy has been slain. An ally has been slain.
The light will guide you.
Dominating.
This way. Come out, come out.
Ally has been slain. Destroyed a turret. An enemy has been slain.
Don't be a scaredy cat. Speed it up. A soothing song.
Your team has destroyed an inhibitor.
All together now.
Your team has destroyed a turret. An enemy has been slain. Unstoppable. An ally has been slain. Shut down.
This way. Come out, wherever you are. Try to keep up. All together now.
Your turret has been destroyed. An ally has been slain.
This way.
An enemy has been slain.